Throughout the world, many major cities are famous for the waterways which divide them: London, Paris, Moscow. Istanbul is unique as its two halves are not merely separated by a river. Indeed, the two parts of Istanbul are on separate continents, Asia and Europe, and its separator is the Bosphorus. This has always been one of the world's most strategic waterways throughout history. In fact, it is a very busy strait with many ships and oil tankers, as well as local fishing and passenger boats. Today there are two road bridges, the Boğazcı Bridge, completed in 1973, and the Fatih Sultan Mehmet Bridge of 1988. A tunnel under the Bosphorus has recently been constructed, and this too will be opened in the near future. But for thousands of years, since long before the foundation of the modern metropolis, the connection from shore to shore has been by boat. Not surprisingly, with the modern phenomenon of road traffic congestion, this continues to be the preferred method of transport for many today. It is fast, cheap, and for both tourists and commuters busily travelling to and from their busy workplaces, surprisingly relaxing. The main ports, or iskele, on the Asian side of the city are Üsküdar and Kadıköy, and these connect with a variety of routes to the main European hubs at Beşiktaş, Kabataş, Karaköy, Eminönü and Bakırköy. While these are the busiest routes, there are several others taking one further along the shores. And whether for business or pleasure, since the Bosphorus is one of the most beautiful stretches of scenery in Turkey, with several palaces, ruins, villages and gardens along its coast, the best way to enjoy this beauty is to take a trip on one of these coastal boats. Not only are there many iskele for departure and arrival, but there are different types of ferry boats too. Perhaps the most impressive are the large ferry boats which run to a fixed schedule. These are an experience in themselves, and passengers can choose to sit on deck and enjoy the experience of the vessel as it powers along the Bosphorus, or sit inside as if this were a mini-cruise. Here there is also time for a quick snack, a glass of tea, or even something to eat. Alternatively, the smaller, more frequent private ferries, known as motor, zip from shore to shore, ensuring a speedy and safe journey for the many thousands of passengers who use these services every day. Whichever route one chooses to take, the cost is relatively inexpensive, and a passenger may start by purchasing a token from either the jeton machines or from a kiosk. Regular travellers can take advantage of a discount with the Akbil card or key. All pass through the turnstiles to begin their journey. Before beginning one's journey, if there's time, it's fascinating just to stand by the iskele and watch the frequent comings and goings of the ferries and motorboats. Once again, while standing in the heart of the modern city, it's impossible not to be reminded of the continuing role one is playing in the life of the city. In one moment, the motors seem to be dashing across the strait in an inexorable mission to keep people moving, while the larger ferries gracefully glide to the dock. In both cases, arriving passengers take the first opportunity to flood off the vessel, as if their journey must maintain an unstoppable movement. Watching the activity for just a short while raises the question of how many passengers in fact cross the Bosphorus by boat each day. However, one may quickly appreciate the foolhardiness of trying to imagine how many billions of such crossings have been made during the long and noble history of this city. For tourists, a trip down the Bosphorus is one of the highlights of a visit to Istanbul, and as an alternative to the ferry crossings, there are both Bosphorus tours and party boats for any occasion. Commuters, or locals taking a day trip, also get the chance to relax and take pleasure from the passing sights. As we make a typical crossing from Beşiktaş to Kadıköy, there is much to enjoy. Dolmabahce Palace, once the home to 6 sultans after 1856, was the administrative centre of the late Ottoman Empire, with the last of the Ottoman sultans residing here. The birth of the Turkish Republic saw government functions move to the new capital in Ankara. However, Dolmabahce Palace has a great meaning for Turkish people, since the Republic's founder, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, had used the palace as a residence, until he passed away in the palace on 10th November 1938 at 9:05 in the morning. Across towards the Asian shore, we pass one of the famous symbols of Istanbul, Kuzkulesi, also known as Maiden's Tower or Leander's Tower. It's on a small islet at the entrance to the Bosphorus Strait and is said to date back to 408 BC, to control the movement of Persian ships. Not surprisingly, there are many legends about this structure, most famous of which is that a young princess resided here to protect her from a prophecy foretelling she would be killed by a snake on her 18th birthday. Alas, it was her father, the Sultan himself, who delivered the fatal basket of fruit on the appointed day. Our eyes are caught by the movement of ships and the well-known features, but there are many details we often fail to appreciate. One of these is the role the impressive Selimia Barracks played in the history of medicine. Indeed, it was here that during the Crimean War, Florence Nightingale and 38 volunteer nurses cared for thousands of wounded and infected soldiers. Here, for the first time, she drastically reduced the high mortality rate by improving the sanitary conditions, returning to England a heroine and a legend. Haydarpaşa train station is the busiest railway terminal in Turkey, dating back to 1872. The current building celebrated its centenary a few years ago. The western terminus of the Ankara main line, it is joined to the European side of the city with a train ferry. But throughout the journey, and especially as one approaches Kadıköy, the focus for many will have been the original heart of this city, the Golden Horn Peninsula, once the seat of Byzantine emperors and Ottoman sultans. Today immortalized by the sites of Topkapı Palace, Hagia Sophia and Sultanahmet, the Blue Mosque. In just a few hours' time, the view from here will surely be a stunning sunset sinking behind the marvelous tableau. For business or pleasure, trips along and across this waterway linking the Asian and European parts of Istanbul are an experience to refresh the traveller and remind one of the diversity of the city and its history.